Yeah, we learned pretty quickly that wasn't really feasible because you're just pretty much dragging along my corpse. And I would just get lost.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the I Love This podcast. For those of you who haven't been here before, thank you for coming and listening, and hopefully you enjoy. But the way that this podcast works is me and my sister Katie, who is also here. Say hello.
Hello.
We both pick a topic. It can be almost anything that we enjoy, that we're obsessing over, or just that we love in general. And we just kind of take turns talking about a topic that we've picked. Most of the time it's not planned. Most of the time we don't tell each other what we've picked. We did just do a Halloween episode, and obviously we kind of focused on Halloween fallness. But overall it can be anything. So if you've been listening, thank you for listening.
Welcome back.
Welcome. And we like to start off with just some small talk, just to kind of get us into the groove of chit-chatting.
Yes.
As the listeners probably don't already know, but obviously Katie knows because she's my sister and I talk to her. I work at a vet clinic, and it's kind of hard to explain because it's emergency, but then it also kind of has a lot of other things that we do. So there's a bunch of other departments, but it's like mainly an ER place. Anyways, this week it was really interesting because we had a dog come in that ate the rubber part of a spatula. So it's like the scraper spatulas that you use to like scrape the bowl when you're baking or and so usually with those kinds of cases we take x-rays first to see if we can actually see anything obvious. One thing led to another, and we ended up doing a scope for this dog. So we knock the dog out, get everything set up, and then we have a scope that we'll put down the throat into the stomach, and then we have these cool little there's kind of like a feeding line within the scope that you can put tools down. So there's like grabbers and little like kind of wire loop things that you can put down there to help like grab stuff out. So like we've pulled out corn cobs and hair ties and ribbon and a whole load of things. It's really interesting to watch, and it's kind of fun. But anyways, you're trying to get this rubber spatula out of this dog. And so most of the time we try to make sure that the dog has like a completely empty stomach so that we can actually see everything in there. But there was just, typical pool of like, just the stomach contents, like a bunch of foam and bile stuff. Anyways, it was so hard to see because there was that stuff in there, but you would just see this like outline of this purple thing. It's like, that's not supposed to be there. And it took us a long time to get it out because it was so hard to see it. And then it's like, it's a spatula, like it's silicone, it's slippery.
Yeah.
Anyways, but with a lot of trying and finagling and a lot of help, we managed to get it out. And it's kind of one of those funny things where when you've tried something for so long, and we were worried that we were going to have to go to surgery because we're like, I don't know if we're going to get this. Like, we're kind of shooting in the dark, and the dog's been under for a while. Like, this might be the best option. We were able to like loop it with one of the little wire loops. And it was like such a celebratory moment because everybody comes over and like sees how it's going, and they're like, oh, did you get it yet? Is it out yet? And it was kind of that thing where you hear us all over there just, oh my gosh, yes! Yeah. And everybody's like, okay, they must have gotten it. It was so fun. I think that's the biggest thing I've ever seen us take out of the stomach. Yeah. It was, wow. Oh, it was so fun. Anyways.
That's wild.
There's my interesting thing of the week.
That kind of makes me glad we don't have a dog because they just get into stuff. And our cat, which me and my fiance have a black cat named Poe, and he is the sweetest little jelly bean. He is the best. You know what nickname we've been calling him lately? What? Beanie Baby. Oh, that's cute. Beanie Baby. It's so cute. He is having his afternoon old man nap in the other room because he's 10. So he's our little senior citizen. He's just a sleepy little guy. But he is so good. He doesn't get up on the kitchen counters or go to like, if we're eating something, he'll try to come over and like, not really try to steal it, but he doesn't like people food. He is the pickiest little cat eater I've ever known. He just wants to sniff it. That's all he wants. He just wants to
Okay.
come over and take a sniff of your food. He doesn't want to eat it. He just wants to sniff it and then he'll go away. Things he does like is like turkey or chicken and string cheese. He loves string cheese and he loves ice cream. Oh my gosh, banana creamies specifically. He will go ham for those, to where we'd bought in like a big box of creamies forever ago. And he learned the sound of the wrapper and would come running whenever he heard us open one.
That's funny.
And we don't feed him a lot. We just let him have a couple of licks of an ice cream and that's it. Like, we're not trying to upset his tummy or anything. But yeah, same thing with the string cheese. He learned what it sounded like when we opened those and we'd give him like a teeny tiny piece. But the most crazy I have seen him go for people food was for a piece of a McDonald's hamburger bun. The bun. The bun. Not, of all things, the bun. Not the burger. The bun. I don't know why he was like really getting up in our space and trying to really, really sniff it. And so I gave him a teeny tiny piece of the McDonald's hamburger bun and he just lost it.
My goodness.
So I think he's just a carb addict. He loves and hash browns. He loves hash browns, and we'll give him like little pieces of French fries. So it's so weird that it's like you try to feed him like a little piece of like ham or something, doesn't want it. Fish, doesn't like it. But a McDonald's bun and string cheese, he's there.
Oh, man. What a life.
I know. What a strange little cat. I love him.
Oh my goodness. Yes, he's so cute. See, Kiara's picky as well. She's my kitty, who is 12. I don't like that number. But she's more easygoing, I would say. But she does like quite a bit of food. She is very forceful with it, though. Usually, if she really wants it, because it smells good, and that's usually like chicken and any sort of meat thing that she's interested in, she'll literally sit next to you and she'll stare at you. She'll be polite for a little while, but then she gets extreme, where it's like, as you're taking bites or when you're, watching the TV, not really looking at your plate, she literally will take her hand out and start trying to, like, she will grab your hand and try and, like, claw you over so she can eat it. Or, like, a lot of times in the morning when I'm having breakfast before work, I just eat cereal because it's quick, it's easy. But it's one of those things where I have to save, like, the last, like, probably about spoonful of milk for her.
For her.
Like, yes. Like, she will literally, it's one of those weird things. Like, now it's whenever I eat cereal, but, like, it's like when she knows I'm just drinking the milk and I'm getting down to last, she'll, like, casually come over and be, like, sitting waiting for me to give it to her.
Yeah.
And if it seems like I'm forgetting, she'll do her little paw and be like, "Excuse me, don't forget."
Yeah. Hello, I'm here. I'm ready for my portion of the cereal. Thank you.
Yeah. But I feel like Teddy's probably the worst. He's my cute little puppy dog who loves human food more than his own food. He will steal and eat and lie about everything.
Yeah.
I have to rip everything from him. But it is cute because if he wants something, he'll usually like put his head in your lap and just stare up at you, be like, "Can I have some?
Please.
Can I have some?" And I'm a terrible human being because I cave in and I spoil him with everything. As long as it's not bad for him. But popcorn is probably his favorite thing in the world. Popcorn and tuna, I would say, are his two favorite things. He will stay by your side for popcorn, and it's kind of terrible because I taught him to boop my nose, which is really cute. But I mistakenly made it like a thing with food sometimes. So if he's close enough to my face and the food, if I even look in his direction, he will just constantly hit my nose, wanting some so bad.
Yeah.
It's really funny to watch. And then like with tuna, like when we make canned tuna, because we have like the automatic tuna can thing that's like above the cabinet that makes the loud noise as it goes. He will literally come running when he hears that because majority of the time it's tuna. And he loves tuna.
Yeah.
Like, we'll let him lick the can for a little bit. We try not to let him lick it too much because he could technically cut himself on the can. That's technically not something you should do. But he will literally just, like, grab it from you and just go and lick it like crazy. He loves tuna. We give him the tuna juice every now and then. He will just eat all the tuna. It's so funny. Oh, he's cute.
Am I going first?
Yes, you are going first.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
So today,
Sure.
the thing that I love so much is probably my favorite TV show, Gilmore Girls. Woo, woo. Okay.
You do.
So I think I've watched it through probably 4 or 5 times, all of the way through. I've stopped counting, to be honest. And I'm currently on season 6 of 7 at the moment. I'm almost always watching it. I'll maybe take a couple of months off once I finish it before I start it again, but it's one of those that's just kind of, I'm always watching something. So for some background, this is straight from Wikipedia, because obviously this is an older show. It went from 2000 to 2006. So obviously we weren't watching it when we were too young to be watching it then. Mm-hmm. I was 2 when it came out, you know? Mm-hmm. So I didn't know much about the impact in things when it was coming out. So from Wikipedia, thank you Wikipedia, Gilmore Girls is an American comedy drama television series created by Amy Sherman Palladino and starring Lauren Graham, who plays Lorelai Gilmore, and Alexis Bledel, who plays Rory Gilmore. The show debuted on October 5th, 2000 on the WB and became a flagship series for the network. It ran for 7 seasons, and the final season moved to the CW and ended on May 15th, 2007. Gilmore Girls received critical acclaim for its witty dialogue, cross-generational appeal, and effective mix of humor and drama. It was a success for the WB, peaking during season 5 as the network's second most popular show. I only have a little bit left from Wikipedia, and then I promise I'll get to me actually talking about it. I just thought that background of its impact at the time was interesting. Since going off the air in 2007, Gilmore Girls has been cited in TV, The Book, and Time magazine as one of the 100 greatest television shows of all time. It has also become one of the most watched shows on streaming platforms since it became available on Netflix in 2014, which I think I watched it for the first time maybe around 2014, 2015, and on Netflix. In 2016, the original main cast and Sherman Palladino returned for the 4-part miniseries revival, Gilmore Girls: A Year in the Life, which I have also watched. So I'll talk about that more later, but it's a miniseries, so it's 4 episodes, and each episode's like an hour and a half, but each episode is a different season. So the first one is winter, spring, summer, fall. So there's a couple months of a time jump in between each episode, so then you kind of get a whole year picture. So that's what The Year in the Life is. And that was a Netflix show. And I'll talk about it more later, but I really hope we get more of that. But there's no plans as of yet. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, we'd be open to doing more of it. It's mostly about getting everyone's schedules to coincide. But it doesn't look like any actual plans are in the works, which is kind of disappointing. But anyway, we'll talk about that at the end. I'm going to start by kind of explaining the premise of the pilot episode. And then I'll kind of go into more of big things and specific characters throughout the series. So I will give a warning before I go into spoiler zone. I'm going to keep it very introductory here at first. So if you don't want any spoilers, keep listening for a little while. See if it's going to be your kind of vibe if you'd like to watch the show. And I will warn you before I let anything slip. It's a mother-daughter, so Lorelai is the mom and Rory is the daughter. So when the show starts, Rory is 15.
Wait,
and
really?
I think it's like, yeah, I think it's the 3rd or 4th episode is her 16th birthday.
For some reason in my head, I thought they were sisters. Maybe, I feel like you explained me that it was the mom. I just learned something new.
Yeah, so it's mother-daughter, but the whole thing is that they have a very, very close bond, and they're more like best friends than really mother-daughter. Okay. Obviously, the mother-daughter dynamic comes into play sometimes in the show, but they really are just like 2 best friends. And Lorelai is only 32 when the show starts. They're really close together because Lorelai got pregnant with Rory at 16.
Oh, okay.
And that's so they're closer in age than like the typical mother-daughter. So Rory is super smart, very driven in school. She loves to read. She wants to be a journalist one day. She wants to be like a foreign affairs correspondent journalist. She wants to go overseas. And, that's her goal in life. And so in order to do that, she wants to go to Harvard. That's her thing. She wants to get to an Ivy League school and go to Harvard. Well, in order to do that, there's a very fancy private school called Chilton that's really hard to get into and is really expensive. And so the very first episode, you find out that she did get into Chilton. Yay! Because it's like hard to get into.
That's nice.
You know, they had someone drop out and they have a spot open for her. The problem is that Lorelai has to pay her tuition all up front. And Lorelai is very like hardworking. She started out as just like a maid, worked her way up in this Independence Inn where she works, and now she manages the whole thing. So it's a very like a success story of starting from the bottom and working her way up to the top. So she does well, but she's not like rich by any means. Mm-hmm. So she can't afford to pay for Rory's school all up front. So that leads her to go to her parents' house to ask for the money for Rory. However, she has an estranged relationship with both of her parents, and her parents' names are Richard and Emily Gilmore. And they have always had kind of a contentious relationship, and it seems like they only see each other on like holidays. They don't have good relationships with each other. Okay, so when Lorelai goes over to Richard and Emily's house to ask for a loan for Rory's school, they're happy to pay for it because they have a lot of money. That's the thing. She grew up with they're well off. And they're happy to help. They want to help Rory. They want her to go to Harvard. Like, they want her to accomplish all of these things. But Emily makes the stipulation that they need to come over for Friday night dinners every week. And that Lorelai needs to call once a week. So Emily wants to have a relationship with Lorelai and Rory. And that's her terms for them loaning the money for Chilton. And that kind of sets up the show.
Reasonably, without any context, that's a reasonable deal. But, you know.
Yeah. It's kind of built up from the beginning that Lorelai really just doesn't get along with her mom. And her mom can be very demanding and judgmental. And they just kind of have never really gotten along very well. They always kind of have a lot of ups and downs. And they just butt heads a lot. And they're just those two kind of personalities, and they both think that the other is always just being stubborn and stuff like that.
Okay.
My favorite season is season 2. It's just like every single episode is good. It doesn't move too fast. It doesn't move too slow. The last, like season 6 and 7 are probably my least favorite. They make a lot of changes that I just kind of didn't like where they ended up taking it, but still good enough that I'm going to, of course, watch it.
So 6 seasons, when would you say, because I feel like in every TV show, I feel like it kind of gets to a point when so much changes that it's just not the same as the beginning seasons that like have the core fundamentals of why you loved the show. And so sure, you might still watch all the seasons, you might still like them all, but in that realm of the 6 seasons, when would you say you kind of hit that gauge of where it's like things are different now, they're not the same as the beginning? And in some people's terms is when it stops getting as good. Sometimes it's still good, but less than the beginning seasons that you like enjoyed so much.
So I actually just looked it up and I lied. There's 7 seasons. You would think
7.
If this is my
Okay.
There's 7.
Okay.
You would think if this is my favorite TV show, I would know that, but my bad. There's 7. I would say, I really like that question. I would say the beginning of season 5 is when that starts to feel different for me, and maybe later when I talk about spoilers, I'll tell you why, but that's when it starts to feel different. Season 5 is pretty okay, but I think that's when things really start to kind of take a turn. And season 6 and 7, I always still watch it. I still watch it all the way through, but those are probably my least favorite seasons. Okay, so Lorelai and Rory live in this little tiny cute, because I think it's Connecticut that it takes place, and it's this town called Stars Hollow. And it is exactly what you think it would be. It's a small town, everybody knows each other, and that almost in and of itself makes the show worth watching. And so many people love this show because it's so cozy and like wholesome. And specifically, I hear a lot of people like to watch it in the fall because it is just like, it's a town like straight out of a Hallmark movie. Just, you know, little businesses, and everyone has their own business, and they go to these town meetings where everyone gathers and people fight about silly stuff. And so it's just a very cute setting, and they do all of these fun town things. So they have like a firelight festival every winter, and they do like a harvest festival every year. But it's just fun that in every episode, like there's something going on in the town, and it's always cute, fun, small town stuff. So there's a whole cast of characters of people that live in the town. So there's Luke, who owns the town diner, and Rory and Lorelai eat there almost every single day. He's one of those people where he's like grumpy, but it's like fun, and that's just like how he is. But he always has a really, really soft spot for Lorelai and Rory especially, because he's kind of like a father figure to her. And, you know, he comes off as this like grumpy, gruff guy, but then I think this is in the 3rd or 4th episode where it's Rory's birthday. He like makes her a cake and puts a little balloon on a table for her birthday. And of course, when she comes in and says hi, he's like, "You're sitting at the wrong table. Like, look, I set that up for you," you know? So it's like he acts all tough, but on the inside, he's actually just like really, really sweet. And him and Lorelai have a really fun dynamic. So like they go and sit and eat at Luke's pretty much almost every single episode, and he becomes one of the really main characters. And then Lorelai's best friend, her name is Suki, who's played by Melissa McCarthy, who this is one of her first big roles, and now she's in like everything. She's in a ton of stuff. And so Suki is the chef at the inn that her and Lorelai work at, and then they're also like besties, and they have dreams and hopes that one day they'll open their own inn together as co-owners. So that's kind of their spiel. So they don't have, well, in the first season they have a town mayor, but you only see him in a couple of episodes in that first season, and then you never see him again. So instead, his name is Taylor, and he's like an older, like a Karen. He's the Karen of the town and he's called the town selectman, whatever that means. But he runs all the town meetings. He enforces all the town ordinances, and him and Luke get into it a lot where Taylor's trying to force this silly, stupid, well, in town code, it states that and Luke's like, I don't care. There's this one scene that I really like in the first season where Taylor comes into the diner and he's getting after Luke because all the other businesses have decorated for the fall and it's good for tourism and it shows your town spirit. Like, could you please just put... And Luke's like, no, I'm not putting up stupid decorations. Like, it doesn't matter. People aren't here for the decor. They're here for the food. And as they're having this conversation, Taylor keeps pulling out these 2 little ceramic pilgrim figurines and trying to put them on the counter. And Luke's like, get those pilgrims out. If you take those pilgrims out of your pocket one more time, I'm going to kick you out of here. So it's just, they're always butting heads, and it's really funny. And that comes up a lot in the show. And then there's Kirk. And Kirk is kind of just the town weirdo who he has like a gajillion jobs. So anytime they need someone, it's kind of like from a show production perspective, if they just need someone to be the announcer for the high school hockey game, or they need a dog sitter, it's always Kirk. It's the same guy, and he just has all he's the notary for the post office, and he, you know, so he just has all these odds and ends jobs, and he's just strange, and that's his character. And then there's Mrs. Kim, who owns an antique store in town, and she's Korean, and her daughter Lane is Rory's best friend. And they have an interesting dynamic because they're very conservative church people. And so Mrs. Kim wants Lane to be like the perfect person, but Lane secretly loves like rock music and wants to be in a band and wears different clothes under her normal clothes so she can take the Mrs. Kim approved shirt off that has like a Madonna t-shirt underneath, you know. And then we see Lane a lot because her and Rory are besties.
So I feel like that's always an interesting thing for shows when they have a lot of like those side characters that sure they aren't in every episode, or they're not even like necessarily highlighted every time. I feel like a lot of popular shows have that one aspect in common where you have a lot of side characters in a way where it's the same people and kind of gives that small town feel, which I don't know about you, maybe it's just us, but I feel like those like small town movies and TV shows are just, they're amazing, and I like them. I like the closeness and all the little characters that you get. There's a Netflix show that I also watch that I won't touch on too much because I might talk about it one day, but it kind of gives me a similar vibe to what you're describing, where it's like supposed to be small town and it's very cozy and nice, but then it's like there's events and there's all these people and sub characters that like you know of that pop up from time to time, and I feel like that's like a good touch in a lot of shows, because I feel like most shows you just have like the main character and then they just like pick people in for little special things that they need someone in, but then you never see them again, or they show up very rarely and it's like you can barely recognize who it is.
Yeah, it's nice to have kind of the same cast of characters that you get to know over all of the seasons. And then I won't say anything about how it ends, but in the last episode, when you kind of see everybody for the last time, it makes me cry. Every time I finish the show, I sob at the end. Because it's just, you've gotten to know all of these people so much, and not just, the main characters like you said, but all of these side characters who have been in the show for the whole time, and maybe not in every episode, but you get to know these people and it feels like they're your friends, and so it's like sad to say goodbye every time. And that was the other thing that was cool about when they did the reboot for the Year in a Life, is that they were able to get most everybody back, and so it was fun to see everybody together again and kind of see what they're up to.
I remember you were really excited when that came out. The Lifetime special thing. You were crazy about it. You're like, I just want to watch it right now.
Yeah, I was really, really excited. And another big part of the show is that Lorelai and Rory, even though they have these perfect figures, they just eat junk food all the time. They eat out most meals. They have these big blowout movie nights where they have Pop-Tarts and marshmallows and whole jars of peanut butter, and it's just kind of like a fun thing they do. And so when A Year in the Life came out, I remember I waited until everyone else, because that was when I was still living at home, I waited till everyone else was at school or work or whatever, and I had bought a whole bunch of stuff, believe it or not, at the Walgreens that I used to work at that's haunted. So I bought egg rolls and Pop-Tarts and Twinkies and all of this junk food, and I had this whole cookie sheet full of junk food, and I did not eat all of it. I did not eat nearly all of it, but I was trying to recreate a Lorelai and Rory junk food spread to watch the first episode of A Year in a Life, and it was really, really fun. It was really, really great.
Sweet. That is really cool. And I feel like I did that kind of one time. If Amanda, our sister, is listening, she's going to get to know this. But when she was living at home for a little period of time, I wanted to watch all the Twilight movies because I had seen the first one, but I hadn't seen all the other ones. And I don't know why I felt like I had to be sneaky about it, but I'd literally wait till she was gone and nobody was home, and I'd go downstairs and steal the DVD for whatever movie that I needed to watch next, and then I'd come upstairs and I'd watch it and then put everything back away I never did anything, and I watched all of the movies. Anyways, I don't know why, but I feel the sentiment where it's I'm gonna do this when no one's around.
I want to wait till no one's home, even though I'm not doing anything I'm not supposed to be doing.
Exactly. And I know she probably would have been fine if I borrowed it. But.
So there's kind of the overview of where the show starts and the frequent cast of characters that you'll be seeing. So if that sounds like something you would like to watch, or if it's something that you've wanted to watch, I highly recommend it. Now we're getting into spoiler zone. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, then skip ahead to Becca's part. We will have chapters of my portion of the podcast and of Becca's portion, so skip forward to listen to what Becca is going to talk about later if you don't want any spoilers. Which I guess I should have asked, are you okay with hearing spoilers, or should I keep it vague?
You can spoil it for me.
Because I'm going to completely ruin the rest of the show.
That's okay.
Okay. I kind of wanted to go through the love interests, because that's the thing that I really love to watch, is the relationships that come and go throughout the show as they mingle with the rest of their lives. That's what I really like about it. So first is Max. So he is a teacher at Chilton. So that's how they meet. And he's throughout season 1 and season 2. Yeah. And Lorelai tries to fight it for a while, where it's no, it'll be weird. I don't want to put Rory in a bad spot, you're a teacher at Chilton. But eventually they just end up getting together anyway. And he is so sweet. And he is so nice and kind. And him and Rory get along really well. And they kind of have this on again, off again thing where they kind of just can't seem to get it right. Eventually Max is well, let's just get married then. If we clearly can't make it work, which I don't think is actually great advice in real life. No. If you can't make something work, just get married. That's not what you should do.
I don't think that solves the problem.
No, it doesn't. It wouldn't just make everything worse. But Lorelai is like, no, like, we're right in the middle of a fight. This is not how you are supposed to propose to me. Like, that's not very romantic. And he's like, well, what would you want from a proposal? And she's like, I don't know. You should come in on a horse, and there should be 1,000 yellow daisies. It needs to be thought out and planned and beautiful. And he's like, fine, whatever. We'll leave it at that then. And then she shows up to work the next day. And the guy who works the front desk, his name is Michel. He's French and he's angry, and he's another like side character, but you don't see him as much as the other ones. And he's like, I didn't order these flowers. I don't know what this is. And the whole front lobby of the inn is just covered in yellow daisies. And the flower delivery man, who's the flower delivery man? It's Kirk, because of course it's Kirk. He delivered the flowers. And he's like, yep, Naturally. It's 1,000 yellow daisies. I counted them all myself.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And that's how the first season ends. Is that she gets all of these daisies, and then that's how it ends.
Oh.
So then they get engaged. They go through all of the wedding planning. And then the night before the wedding, Lorelai backs out because she didn't feel like she loved him enough. Yep. Because at her bachelorette party, her mom, Emily, was there, and people had been asking her about, like, the night before her wedding, and Emily was like, oh, I couldn't sleep at all, and I tried my wedding dress on every night because I was so excited. And I think in her head, Lorelai was kind of like, oh, well, I'm not that excited about this wedding. Maybe this isn't right. And so they don't go through with it. Which is sad.
Maybe for the best.
But yeah, for the best. From there, we move on to Christopher, who is Rory's dad. And he has been, like, in and out of Rory's life this whole time. Hasn't ever been really super involved. Lorelai has pretty much raised Rory on her own. And Christopher's just never quite gotten his life together. And so he might be my least favorite love interest. Because he has a tendency he'll be gone for forever, and then he comes in, and he shows up, and he ruins everything, and then he leaves. And that's just kind of his MO. And a perfect example of this is that after everything with Max is done and through, Lorelai's over it, it's all good, he shows back up, and him and Lorelai seem like they're going to get together. It's going really well. They're really excited about it. But technically, Christopher has a girlfriend, but he says that they're, like, separated and things are on the rocks, and he doesn't think they're going to make it through. Like, you know, we're taking time to think about our relationship, but I think I'm done. Like, I want to be with you instead.
Okay. And
Lorelai's all excited. And then she's like, maybe this will be the time that it actually works. And then Christopher finds out that his girlfriend is pregnant. And he leaves Lorelai to go back because and this makes sense, but his justification was that he wasn't around for Rory when she was young, and so he wants to be there for his new kid, which makes sense,
which is reasonable.
Sucks for Lorelai because she really thought this was going to be the time, and it just didn't work out that way. And he comes in later in the show, in like the last season. They get together again, but it still doesn't end up working out because it was a whole thing. So then I'll talk very briefly, but in season 3, we have Alex, and we only see him a couple times, and the only reason I'm bringing him up is because he's played by Billy Burke, who plays Charlie in Twilight. So we only see him a couple of times, and it's kind of weird because the last time you hear about him, I can't remember the context of the conversation, but Lorelai was talking to Suki about something of like, technically I'm still seeing Alex, but it's more on and off again. But like they hadn't seen each other in a while. We never hear that they actually break up or anything. But he was always really sweet, and I know a lot of people really liked him. Like they will go on like one other date that we actually see, but she lets it slip like, oh yeah, I love to fish. Fishing and being in the outdoors is great, even though she doesn't, but you know, she's just trying to be impressive. And so she does all this research on how to be a fisherman, and actually Luke ends up helping her a lot because he is a fisherman, and so he sets up this little like kiddie pool for her with fish so she can like test fish before her fishing date. It's really, really sweet. Okay. But when Alex shows up to their house to pick up Lorelai, it's really early in the morning, like Rory's still in her pajamas and everything, and Lorelai has all of this crazy fishing gear and is like, yeah, I'm so excited, like I love to fish. And she walks out the door, and then Alex asks Rory, like, she's never been fishing before, has she? And Rory's like, nope, she has no idea. And he's like, well, I booked lunch reservations at this nice resort, and there's a spa that she can hang out in the afternoon. Do you think she'll like that? And Rory's like, yeah, I think she'll like that. So just very kind and considerate, and I wish we would have
cute.
seen more of him, but I wonder if the actor had like a time schedule constraint or something. So next we have Jason, and Jason a lot of people don't like, but I don't mind him so much. He is Richard's business partner, and they're not together for a super long time because business things kind of go wrong, and Lorelai's kind of caught in the middle between her dad and her boyfriend and their business, and so that doesn't end very well. People don't really like him because they kind of think he's kind of a arrogant rich businessman, always on the go, but I didn't mind him so much. I thought it was nice that he knew what he wanted and that he would like go after what he wanted and wasn't kind of like wishy-washy. So, big spoiler, the thing that everybody wanted to happen is that finally in season 5 Luke and Lorelai get together.
Oh, okay. I was a little curious about that. I'm like, hey, how is Luke? How old is Luke? And is there like hookup thing? But now I know. So
yeah, so they're like around the same age, and he's in the show so much, and he's always been there for Lorelai and Rory. He just, whenever they need anything, like Luke's always there for them, and he always has been, and he's more of a father figure to Rory than Christopher ever was. And so it's one of those, are they, aren't they, are they going to get together, are they not, that tension throughout the whole entire show. And sometimes it seems like they're about to get together, but then something happens and timing. But they do finally get together. And it's so great. And they kind of have a tumultuous relationship where Christopher actually breaks them up after they hadn't been together for that long, because he showed up drunk to a party and was like, Lorelai belongs with me and she knows that. And it was a whole thing. And so then Luke dumps Lorelai, and that was very sad. But they get together soon after. They get engaged. They plan a whole wedding. And this is the part, it's either the end of season 5 or the beginning of season 6. Luke finds out that he has a 12-year-old daughter that he knew nothing about.
oh my gosh, what's with the daughter thing?
I know.
Jeez, what's with the children?
I know.
No.
And Luke, that really throws him off. And a lot of people don't like his daughter because of this, because he kind of gets freaked out and keeps pushing back the wedding. And Lorelai finally gives him an ultimatum of like, you know, I had a whole wedding planned and I had to cancel the whole thing. And I've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and I've been patient. And I know you finding out you had a kid was a big life thing to deal with, but it's been so long that like, I don't get why we can't just get married. It doesn't have to be this whole big thing. Like, let's just elope. I just want to be married to you. And Luke is like, no, this is too fast. I don't want to have an ultimatum. I can't decide right now, and tells her no. But then, guess what Lorelai goes and does? She goes and hooks up with Christopher that same night.
No.
I know. And so then Luke shows up the next morning and has his truck all packed and says, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to elope. I just needed a minute to think about it. And then Lorelai tells him, like, well, I slept with Christopher last night. And then he leaves.
I know. Jeez.
But, so then they're not together for the rest of the show. However, in the very last episode of the show, they're throwing a big party for Rory. And Luke, unexpectedly, the weather is calling for rain. And Luke stays up all night sewing together tarps and tents and whatever he can find to make a big tent over the town square so that they can have Rory's party and not get rained on. And when Lorelai finds that out, they have a big old kiss, and that's like the very last episode. So you assume that they're together, I guess. But they are, because then in A Year in a Life, they're together, they're living together. They do end up finally getting married. So Luke and Lorelai do end up together. Yay! Took them a while to get there, but they're good.
I know. Hurrahs.
So he's obviously my favorite, and they definitely belong together, and they're better with each other than without. But even like with some of the girls that Luke was with throughout the show, they both end up breaking up with him because they're like, well, clearly you have something going on with Lorelai. Like, clearly you have feelings for her. And he fights it for a long time. He's like, no, like, she would never want to be with me, but they end up there anyway.
Aw, that's cute.
Okay, on to Rory. So Dean is her first boyfriend. They meet at school, and he is like the perfect first boyfriend. He is so sweet and so kind, and, you know, they take things slow, and is just a perfect first boyfriend. They break up briefly in I think the first season, because he said, I love you, but Rory wasn't ready to say it. And so he thought that meant she didn't have feelings for him or whatever. They're broken up for like 2 episodes and then they get back together. But then in season 2, we have a new boy move into town who is Jess. And Jess is Luke's nephew. And Jess gets shipped off to Stars Hollow because he was living in New York with his mom, but he was getting into trouble. And so she sends him to Luke to straighten him out, keep him out of trouble. You got to make sure he graduates high school. But he's a bad boy. And he's stealing people's gnomes. There's a point where he steals all of the baseballs from the high school, so they have to use softballs. There's a point where he draws a chalk outline of like a body with caution tape around Taylor's store, because Taylor owns a grocery store. And you know Taylor. He is like crazy Karen, and all of a sudden he's like, I have a crime scene in front of my store. And the cops are like, no, you don't. We don't know that a crime has actually occurred. None of us did this. It was just like a prank that just pulled. Anyway, so in season 3, and you can kind of tell that Rory and Jess kind of maybe had feelings for each other. And finally, Dean gets fed up with it and is like, you know what? You have been dragging me along for all this time. Clearly, you have feelings for him. I'm done. Her and Jess get together. And Jess is my favorite of Rory's love interests. And here's why. Because when they're actually together, he doesn't treat her super well. He's very wishy-washy with their plans, and he'll like disappear for days at a time without talking to her, and then he'll show up with concert tickets or something, and then she like forgives him for whatever. And actually when they end up breaking up, he leaves town and just like doesn't even tell her. Doesn't even actually break up with her and just leaves.
That's rude.
So he is definitely not a good boyfriend when they're actually together, but the reason that I like him so much is that they understand each other better than anyone else she's with. They both like the same books, and they both just understand each other so well. They just like get each other, to where there's a point, I actually just watched this episode last night, where Rory kind of loses her way in season 5 and kind of starts making choices that aren't very like her, and Jess is only really around for season 2 or 3, and then once he leaves town you don't see him as much, but he pops in for a second in season 5, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, this isn't you. Like, you shouldn't be doing all of these things. Like, this is not the person that I know you can be. Like, you know, so he's just one of those people where he knows her so well. He's one of the only people that can actually like get her to listen to stuff. And it's the same way for him, where he doesn't like to listen to anybody, but he'll listen to her. They know that what they're saying to each other is like true, and they're just looking out for each other, you know?
So you're saying then that if he wasn't such a bad boy and wasn't such a bad boyfriend, that they would have been a great match together.
Yes. He pops in like twice in the later seasons, and you can see, okay, he's done a lot of work. He's really tried to improve himself. You can tell he's done a lot of growing, and you're like, okay, you guys would be so good together. And in fact, when you see him in A Year in the Life later, I really want them to get together if they ever make another season, because Dean in A Year in the Life is now like married with kids to somebody else. So like he's, you know, good. Her next love interest, Logan, I'll talk about him later, but he's not really on the market. So I would love to see Rory and Jess together again now that they would both actually be ready for it. Okay, so that leads us to Logan. So Logan, Rory meets in college, and he is very typical trust fund, rich family, kind of thinks he can do whatever he wants. So he is very like on and off for me. There's times when he's really sweet and really caring, and like he'll, you know, be really generous and take Rory on all these extravagant dates and things, and it's so it's like you can kind of see why she fell for him, but then he's just kind of a jerk sometimes too. They're together for the most amount of time, and they're together up until the end of the show. So the second to last episode is when Rory graduates from college, and at her graduation Logan proposes to her. But she says no. I know. But she says no because she's not ready to really settle down, because he had like gotten this great job in California, and he was like, I found a house for us, and there's an avocado tree, and like,
you're going,
you know,
too fast. No.
Yeah. Like, you know, he would be supportive of whatever she wanted to do, but she just wasn't really ready to really just settle down. And she just wanted to do a whole lot of other stuff before she does that. So she told him no, which was sad because they'd been together for so long by that point and they'd been through so much together. But then in A Year in the Life, Logan is living in London and he's engaged to someone else. But Rory will go and see him and stay with him when his fiance is gone, and they'll like hook up and whatever. And so it's like kind of icky.
Yeah.
So
okay, but does she know about the girlfriend, fiance?
yes, she does.
And she's okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, and here's the thing is that I really, really like Rory, but some of her decisions were not good decisions. So, like, for example, with Dean, after they break up because of Jess, and then after her and Jess break up, they graduate high school. Dean has a new girlfriend, and they get engaged, like, right at the end of high school. Dean and this new girlfriend, Lindsay. They get married, and believe it or not, two 18-year-olds that got married aren't very happy, and it's not going very well. And Rory ends up sleeping with Dean while he's still married, which is not good and not nice. And that is probably one of the biggest, like, season cliffhangers, is that happens and Lorelai finds out, and Lorelai is like, that's not okay. You should not have done that. That was a mistake. And Rory gets so upset. She gets so upset. Like, how could you ruin this for me? Like, you know, Dean wants to be with me, not with her. And that's how the season ends. Also, in that same episode, that's when Lorelai opens her new inn, because her and Suki do end up opening their own inn. And they're doing, like, a test run weekend with all of their friends. And Lorelai and Luke kiss for the first time in that episode. And then Lorelai runs home and finds Rory and Dean, and they have that big fight, and then that's where the season ends.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an end.
So, anyway, the second time Dean and Rory get together after that, because she feels really bad about having him cheat on his wife. And she ends up sending Dean a letter saying, like, you know, we can't do this anymore. Like, this isn't okay. Like, I don't want to be a homewrecker. But his wife finds that letter and throws him out, and they get divorced. And so then after he's divorced, Rory and Dean get together again, but it's not for very long because they just have different lives and wanted different things. And that's right when she met Logan too, and he was like, I don't think I fit in with this. So anyway, that's Gilmore Girls. And obviously there's way more of that because it's 7 seasons of like 20 to 22 episodes a season, and they're all like 45-minute episodes. So there's a lot of show. I'll just touch briefly on A Year in the Life. So unfortunately, the actor Edward Herman, who plays Richard, Lorelai's dad, he actually passed away in 2014. And so he wasn't in the reboot, which was really sad. And they like show his funeral, and they like do a really good like homage to him, but it was just sad to not have him there. And so in A Year in the Life, Luke and Lorelai, they do finally get married, they do finally elope, and they explore the idea of having kids, even though they're much older now. Rory's kind of all over the place. She's trying to figure out what to do with her career, and she keeps bopping around traveling all over the place. And she has this, like, boyfriend. I really didn't like this part of the show. She has this boyfriend named, like, Paul or something. You see once. But every episode, it's like, oh, I got to break up with Paul. Like, I just got to break up with him already. Like, she, like, hasn't seen him in forever. And Lorelai can never remember his name. She's like, oh, how's Frank or whatever? And Rory's like, Frank? Who are you talking about? She's like, oh, your boyfriend. She's like, Paul? Oh, yeah, Paul, that's his name. And so the cliffhanger, so she has Paul or whatever. She ends up having like a one-night stand with some rando guy in one of the episodes. And then obviously has this thing with Logan. And the end of A Year in the Life is that she finds out that she's pregnant. And that's it. And it ends. And now there's no plans of any more. I like to watch each episode in like each season. So like I just finished the summer episode a couple of weeks ago. I'll probably watch the fall one here soon. So I like watch it throughout the year ever since it came out. I think they did the best they could for just like a reboot, but I wish some of the story would have been a little bit different. So there you have it. Gilmore Girls.
Man. Alrighty. So my topic that I decided to pick today, we're gonna go the gaming route for the first time.
Ooh.
I'm fairly sure this will not be the last time. I can guarantee that. But we're gonna start out real easy, and you're gonna have a lot to say about this. We're gonna walk down memory lane. We're gonna talk about Minecraft.
Wow.
I know. Okay. You ready to feel old? Minecraft came out in 2011.
Oh, wow.
So it's been like 8 or 9 years.
Since 2011?
Which is crazy.
That's like 13 years ago. It's 2024.
Did I do my math wrong?
Yeah.
See, hold on.
2024
Hold on.
minus 2011, that's 13 years.
Yeah, I don't know how I came up with that math then. So scratch that.
I never...
then. Get rid of that.
I never would have thought that you'd do math wrong and I would do math right.
I know. See, and I even counted. I was like, oh, I gotta count out.
It's okay.
Oh, well, okay.
Nobody's perfect.
Anyways, so it came out 13 years ago, which I find crazy. But then it didn't come to the Xbox 360 version until 2012. So it took about a year or so. Which, for context, we did not have PC computer that we played games on. We played solely through our Xbox 360. And I don't remember exactly when it all happened because I don't know that we necessarily got that game as soon as it came out. So I don't know context-wise how long it took from when it came out to when we got it.
I think it was probably around 2014 or 2015 would be my guess.
Probably. Because I know it had gotten pretty popular and we had been watching a decent amount of Minecraft. But it's so funny because thinking back to when we started playing it, I get this very unique feeling when I'm thinking about this because it's like all of those times that we would play the Xbox tutorial, we'd go to the search bar and then look up Minecraft and then play the literally 10-minute tutorial that would stop at like the last night and kick you out and you'd lose all your progress and have to start all over with all the little tutorial areas. Part of me wishes I could know how many hours we spent playing the tutorial over and over and over and over again.
Just over and over again, seeing how far we could get in the small window they give you to like demo the game.
We spent so much time. And it's like I can still like vividly remember what the old tutorial place looked like. With the castle and the walls and all the things and
like garden beds.
It's kind of an interesting thing because I think throughout all of our gaming time, I think Minecraft is probably the top game that we were obsessed about.
I think we probably spent the most amount of time on Minecraft. I think a close second would probably be The Sims. Because was it The Sims 3 pets that we had? Okay.
It was 3.
Yeah, we had the Xbox 360 game of The Sims 3 pets. And we played that quite a bit, but we definitely played Minecraft more.
For sure. I feel like that was one of those games where we knew about it beforehand, before we even like got the game, and we were so determined to get it that we paid for it ourselves.
Yeah, should I tell the story of how we got
You can tell the story,
Minecraft? Okay.
Yeah.
So I was also going to say that watching Minecraft YouTube videos was the earliest I remember watching like gaming videos on YouTube was all Minecraft videos.
Yeah.
And that's what really got us into it. And so we wanted the game. And here's the thing is that, and this changed after this year, but I figured out that I could go onto our family Amazon account and see what our parents had ordered for our Christmas presents. And so I had seen that they had ordered us Minecraft because we'd been wanting it for a while. So I could see that they had ordered us Minecraft, but I didn't want to wait until Christmas. And so we hatched this little plan that we had the money for it. We had the $20, $30 or whatever it cost to buy the Xbox game.
I think it was $20.
I think it was 20. And so we were asking to go to the store to go buy Minecraft. And like we have the money, we want to go buy Minecraft. And I remember our parents kind of trying to talk us out of it because I knew that they had the game already. I knew that they had already bought the game. And so then finally our dad just went off to his bedroom and came back out and handed us Minecraft and took our money. Basically. It's like, here, fine, have your Minecraft and I'll take your $20 and buy you something else for Christmas. And sure enough, the next year, because then I shouldn't have said anything, but then I told them. I was like, oh yeah, I saw you guys had bought it for us on Amazon. This is how I knew to do this. And then sure enough, the Amazon password got changed. And the next year for Christmas, I think it was maybe you who had asked for the Amazon password or something. And our mom was like, nope, we're not going to give that to you until after Christmas.
I remember we were so excited. We were so ready.
To actually be able to play it for longer than 10 minutes after watching people play it for hours and hours.
Yeah. Me being the little person that I was actually really shocked that they had it already. But I was like, yay, we can play it now. Yeah. But I didn't have that context either, so that makes sense. I guess we should probably explain what Minecraft is, huh?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So, Minecraft, I feel like most people should know what Minecraft is because it's very popular and it stayed very popular even though it's been 13 years. But it's kind of one of those games where there is like necessarily a quest you can do, like you can get achievements and there's technically like an end to the game, but it's also kind of an open world game where you can do what you want, you can build what you want, you can craft, you can build, you can, create whatever you want. A lot of people do a lot of design things and a lot of builds that they post online. A lot of people do like Let's Plays where they have specific goals in mind and they kind of can do what they want. So it's basically an open world, but it's focused around blocks. Like pretty much everything is a block. And you can't, there's no circles, there's no rounds. You can't change the blocks necessarily. But there's a lot of things you can do. There's, lots of animals you can get. There's monsters that come out at night. I want to say day and night cycles usually are about 10 minutes each. So you have like daytime and you have nighttime. And there's all sorts of, mobs as they're called. There's like villagers and all the things. It's a great game. But I remember when we got the game originally, it's weird to see how much it's expanded. But I remember how it was a very, delayed update between what was on the computer and what was on the Xbox. Because I think it originally just came out as a PC game. And then it slowly moved to all the other devices. And I believe it's on everything. You can get it on any platform. But I remember the big thing at the time was the horses. Because the PC had the horses. And the Xbox did not. And I was so sad. I remember we would ride the pigs because there's pigs in the game.
Yes. And if you craft a carrot on a stick, and a saddle, you can ride a pig and it will want the carrot on the stick so you can ride it around. But wow, that's what I just remember really clearly of those early days is that we were watching all these YouTube videos of people playing Minecraft with the PC version. And so they had things like horses and name tags is specifically what I remember clearly. Because the name tags you can use to name your animals. So then they have a little name that pops up over their head. And we didn't have those. And I feel like it was like a 6-month plus delay between what the PC version had before they would update it for the Xbox. So it's like major FOMO of they'd have all this fun, cool stuff, and we were just waiting till we could get it updated for our Xbox version.
Yeah. And I remember when the horses came out, I gawked and spent so much time on the horses for forever. Because I was so happy. It was the best thing ever. I literally can't play a Minecraft without having a horse. And usually there's always that struggle of, okay, I'm going to have one, maybe two. And I end up having more than that, and it's a problem, but it's fine because it's a game. But I remember a lot of our time was spent watching videos because we didn't have the game beforehand, and we were watching those videos. But even when we had the game, we were watching other people at that point that we would just kind of follow around. And so I wanted to bring back some of the old ones, which you probably recognize. I know you watched the Cube SMP for a long, long time.
Oh my gosh, the Cube. Well, I watched, and maybe this is one of the people you're going to talk about, but Stacy Plays. I watched a ton of her, and she did a Cube series. I think it was 50 episodes long. And Stacy made a horse and mule shop. And it was cool. It was orange clay. That was another thing was the clay blocks for building. We didn't have those yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so she made this mesa clay shop with mules and horses, and she had this really cool house out on the mesa. And so yeah, I've watched that whole thing. I think I watched it like 2 or 3 times back in the day, because then it was fun of like other Minecraft people that would be on at the same time. It was almost like a little collab episode. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I watched that, specifically Stacy Plays series of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So kind of to reiterate with the SMP thing, so usually people can create like a server where multiple people who live, very far away can all come together on this like one server, and it's all kind of in real time in a way, so you can get on, and other people that are getting on at the same time, you can be on together and collab and do stuff together like they do. But you basically they make this world. They all have their own houses that they can go and visit, but then they have all these shops and things where they can kind of trade stuff and buy things and all of that. So I remember you watched that a lot, and I watched quite a bit too. It was more later on than like in the real world time of like when they were posting stuff. Yeah. I remember we tried to build our own village like that, and that didn't go so well.
Yeah, it didn't quite look the same. We didn't quite have the building skills of, and even now, when I play it now, people, the game's been out for so long that some people are just so talented that like building things in Minecraft specifically is like an art form all of its own at this point. And I've never been very good at that anyway. I'm trying to remember, did we have like a big rainbow tower or something like that?
I don't remember. I know we had a lot of color in the village that we were trying to make, so I don't know if there's a rainbow something. There might have been a rainbow house.
I feel like I made something like that once, but I can't remember when. What I wouldn't give to open up our original Minecraft world on the original Xbox 360 disc that we used to have. I think it's lost to time at this point, but what I wouldn't give to have that and to go through all of our old worlds. Yeah. Oh, I would pay good money for that.
Of course. Well, and I wonder if maybe we were trying to build the colored sheep farm. Wonder if that's where that came from. That could have been it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember I made like a giant, like, it might have been purple, or I might have made it out of wood. I made like a mansion. And it didn't look great, but we're going to ignore that. But yeah, I remember we tried to do that, and we never really got very far. And then going back to people that we watched, I remember we did watch a lot of Stacy Plays. She did her Dogcraft episodes.
Oh, yeah. We used to love Dogcraft. Yeah, I think that the series is still going.
I think it is.
There's like hundreds of episodes. I stopped watching at some point.
I know I went a little farther than you at one point.
Yeah. Being there for like day 1 of Dogcraft, holy cow. And seeing the stuff she would build, that was crazy. That feels very nostalgic for me. And I've gone back and watched like some of the early ones, and that really like takes me back.
Well, and then it's like, especially with the Cube members, they would do the UHC, the like championship thing.
Oh, UHC, yes. That was so exciting every year.
That was so fun. So to kind of explain what UHC means, isn't it Ultra Hardcore Craft? Isn't that what that stands for?
I think so.
I think so. But basically what would happen is whoever was competing, sometimes it would be Cube members, but it was like a bunch of other people that were popular YouTube Minecraft people. But basically they would all get in on one server, and I think usually the first day or 2 was like kind of the peaceful zone where they could get resources, food, weapons, all the things. But it was basically like this player versus player fighting. Like fight to the death. Like all of them would be in this world. They'd be randomly spawned somewhere. They'd have to like try and get as much resources as possible, and then you would start trying and killing people. And whoever was the last person standing won. And I don't know what the reward was besides being the champion.
I don't remember if there was a prize, but the big thing was that, because you have, is it 10 hearts? Is that how much health you have in Minecraft?
I think so, yeah.
But in regular Minecraft, if you eat, or if you just like give it some time, your hearts will regenerate. But in the UHC, they don't. So if you like fall and you lose like half a heart, it's just gone. And so the only way you can regenerate your health is if you make golden apples. So I remember a lot of people would go hunting for apples and for gold so they could get golden apples. Because, like, even if you run into a zombie or a spider or one of the mobs, like, that could take you out and, you know, you're just out.
Yeah. It was always kind of that fun thing because all of them would record and then they'd all kind of post episodes. And so you could, you know, watch everyone's POV, point of view. But I remember we watched a lot of that.
Yeah, that was so exciting. I think it was only like a couple of the seasons when we were really in our Minecraft phase that it would come out. They'd have certain days. They would all post an episode, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
So then it was like, oh my gosh, there's a new episode of UHC. So then you can watch it from whoever's perspective you wanted to, or you could like, if someone you liked got killed by someone else, then you could go watch the other person's POV as well. So it was just like a very exciting, it's like Minecraft Super Bowl is what it felt like, because then you have all of these like Minecraft celebrities of people that you'd seen on the Cube and all of this exciting stuff that are all coming together and going head to head. It was an exciting time.
It was really fun. That was like I feel like that was a very peak era of Minecraft at that point.
Yeah.
When it was the very big thing that everybody was doing. And I feel like they did a season or two where they did teams as well. And if all your teammates died, then like you guys were out type of thing.
Yeah.
I remember there was one episode I watched when it was like a team of 3, I think. And I remember there was this really iconic scene in the beginning where one of them was trying to hit a chicken and they accidentally hit one of their teammates.
Oh, I feel like you showed that to me. Yeah.
It's like this whole thing of they lost hearts and all of that. I remember during that time, I watched a certain YouTuber. His ID was like grape applesauce. I watched him a lot for a while. But it was interesting because he had like a certain texture pack that changed the way everything looked to where his apples were purple. And I don't know if that was how his thing came to be, but that was kind of like part of his thing. But anyways, UHC was a big thing we did for a while.
It felt like a very big deal at the time. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
What I wouldn't give for life to be that simple. Back when we were just
right?
kids.
Could just play and be happy. And then another thing, which I don't know if you watched this as much as I watched it, but that was a thing between Stacy Plays and another player that I didn't really watch him much by himself, but his name is Grazer10. They did the Mind Clash.
I don't know if I watched that one. I do remember Grazer, though, and I remember him feeling like the head honcho of the Cube. I don't know if he actually was or not. And I remember, being excited whenever he was in Stacy's videos. But I don't think I never watched him separately, and I don't think I watched the Mind Clash series.
I think you were kind of past the Minecraft craze around that time. Basically, they did this competition together, and there's quite a lot of episodes where they'd come up with challenges where it's like you have to get these certain items or you have to do this certain thing, and whoever gets it first wins, and competitions like that, and they keep score and whatever. But I wonder if you do remember when I was so obsessed with it that I was trying to copy them and get us to play it together. Do you remember that?
I very, very, very vaguely. Where I couldn't tell you any of the specific like quests or like tasks, but I do remember. Yeah, very, very vaguely. I remember that.
Yeah, because I remember I was so down for it, and I'd like make the challenge, and I'd be like, okay, here we go. But we were so bad at Minecraft that it was like if there was ores or something that we had to get, I would like go hide them in some caves, so that there would at least be some available nearby, just to make it a little better. I only remember a handful. I tried to copy the very first episode, which was where she did like the things that she likes. So you had to get like the leather boots because she always wore leather boots, and the bucket of milk because that was like her thing. And then you had to get a wolf because she likes her dogs. So I remember we did that one, but I remember that challenge. And I remember I tried to do the 12 Days of Christmas one, which I spent so long because it was, you'd have to get one specific item, but you'd have to get it in like the quantities up to 12. So like one was like, I don't know, a chicken. And then you had to get like 2 rabbits and then like 6 apples. And I can't remember all of them. But oh my gosh.
Oh, that sounds like so much work.
I don't think we finished that one. But I think the one thing that I kind of wish we had done back then was beat the Ender Dragon together.
Yes, I've never done that like, for realsies. I've done it in creative, you know,
Yeah.
for fun and with friends. But because if you want to, like, play the game, like, if you want to play the quote-unquote story of the game, it's, you know, you survive and you build your resources and your weapons and you mine for all the, you know, gold and iron and diamonds, and you get yourself equipped enough to go defeat the Ender Dragon, which is, like, you know, the big boss, and then that's like the end of the game. But obviously it's just such an open world sandbox game that you can do whatever you want. But yeah, we've never done that. We've never been very good at Minecraft, though. I've never have been.
Yeah. I don't know that we could have actually done it for realsies at our young age at that point, but part of me wishes that we at least tried. But I even tried to do it, and I feel like I never actually get up to the point where I feel like I could actually go do it.
Yeah. Without, like, going into creative mode, which is just you can get any item you want for free. But then it's not as fun if you just outfit yourself in all diamond armor and all diamond weapons.
I feel like a lot of our time we spent was building. We'd, like, get a new world, and we'd either go in creative or sometimes we wouldn't, and we'd build our houses, like, get our basic setup, and then we'd get bored and restart and do something else.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, was that was kind of our pattern, where building in creative was just so fun because you just had access to all of the blocks, so you could really focus on what your house looked like, because grinding for all the materials is just time consuming. And so building and designing a house in creative was just really fun. But then we used to do that thing where we'd, like, stock all of our chests full of food and all of the nice weapons. And so then that kind of, like, takes away all of the fun of the game of grinding for your supplies. Because just, like, getting food and growing a garden and starting a farm and getting your weapons and mining for ores, that's kind of like the whole point of the game. And that's the fun part. So if you, like, take that away and just give yourself everything, then it's not as fun. But built a lot of different stuff in our time, and that was always the funnest part for me.
We did a lot of building together, but, you know, good times. Good times.
Very good times. Yeah.
But I also feel like, especially from the beginning, it was very basic, and obviously we didn't get updates super often for a while on the Xbox. But from that time to now, there's been so many updates. There's been so many added things. There's been so, like, I try and keep up, but after we stopped playing Xbox, there was a decent gap where I wasn't playing Minecraft. And now that I have my Switch and I've been playing it for probably another year or two now, it's just, like, hard to grasp everything because I'm so out of the loop.
Yeah, me too. Because we stopped playing it and we kind of stopped watching it on YouTube also. We kind of changed to other things. So there was, like, probably a 5 to 6 year gap where we didn't know what was going on. And even now it still feels like a little bit unrecognizable with the amount of stuff. And there's, like, new mobs and so many new items and blocks that I don't even recognize anymore.
Yeah, because I feel like the threshold for when I stopped playing Minecraft was when they came out with, like, the oceans update, where they had, like, the different types of oceans that had, you know, corals and dolphins, but then they introduced the drowned, which is, like, the zombies that are underwater that will come and try and get you when you're swimming. That was, like, the last bit that I remember until I started playing again. But it's, like, there's so many texture packs and mods, which we never played with. Which, like, the texture packs just change the way the world looks. There's a lot of, like, ones that make it look more natural, so it's more, like, real world looking, and others that are, you know, based off of popular things, and they change all the time. But then there's, like, the mods where you can have, like, different animals in it. Like with Stacy's Dog's Craft, that was a specific mod that you had to buy, and then you could have all these different dog breeds in your world and all the special stuff that comes with it. But then also, I feel like something that we never really followed much was Minecon, which is basically, like, you know, a convention for Minecraft. I don't know if this was a typical thing they did every year at Minecon. Obviously, they tell about all the new stuff and the things that they want to add to the game and give teasers and all of that. But usually they do, like, a competition for a new, like, hostile mob, like a mob that will try and kill you. They usually do, like, a voting contest on that, I think. So then there's always some new mob that's going to come into the game that everybody's voted on that gets revealed at Minecon and everything.
Yeah.
But I feel like we never really followed that much.
No, I knew it was a thing, but I hadn't ever, we didn't follow it.
But then it's like they came out with a bunch of more biomes, so a bunch of different areas. You have, like, your grasslands and your forests, but then they came out with, like, the Darkwood forest that gives you a different kind of wood. And then there's like the birch hill trees, and then like the hills and the mountains. And now the mountains can have snow on top of them. And now there's goats on them too, which that was a shocker to my mind when that happened. But then it's like they gave updates to the actual sort of mobs in the game as well. Because there was the villagers. They look different now than they did when the game started. And now they've added like pillagers, which will, you know, go and pillage the village. And they look different too. But then it's like, then there's the new animals too. It's like they just barely came out with, I think, one of the newer updates where you can have different kinds of wolves. The wolves all used to be different. You'd have to just go to the forest to find them. Now there's like different kinds of wolves that have different colorings that you can only find in certain biomes.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
It looks cool. And I want to find all the wolves, but I don't know if I'll ever actually do that because that sounds really hard. But then they like added the foxes in. And now there's like the red and the white foxes. And there's frogs in the swamps.
Oh, I don't think I've seen frogs yet.
They're cute.
I still can't get my head around like bunnies and bees and like
the bees.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I haven't played like a ton, you know, in the last few years. And so even those things that are not new anymore, they've been there for a while, but just that weren't in that, you know, older version that we used to play. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, I know. The bees. I have really tried with the bees. I made this world. I made this giant glass dome that I wanted to put like a greenhouse. Oh my gosh, I spent so long on that. And I wanted to put bees in it. I wanted like a bee thing in there. And so the bees will naturally spawn on trees and they'll have like the bee hives, but then you can actually make like the bee boxes that you can eventually get the bees to get in. And I tried so hard and they just die every time I tried to transport them. I watched so many videos. I tried to do it and I couldn't do it. But then you get honey and all these things.
Like, honestly, like the sky is the limit when it comes to Minecraft. You can really honestly, and I mean, just looking at all the YouTube videos that exist for Minecraft, it really is just completely infinite possibilities of how you want to spend your time.
Yeah, which I think is why the game's so popular and is still around after so long. I feel like the hype has died down and it's not as popular, but that's what happens with older games. But it's still just like that prevalent and interesting because you could literally do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about, for my last little bit, something that I heard of, I think, a week or two ago. Everybody that knows Minecraft knows that you have limited inventory space. Like with most games, that's kind of part of the challenge. You have a certain amount of items that you can keep on your person at any time. And there's a lot of hacks, and there's a couple of mods that you can buy where you can have backpacks. But typically, you can only have like one thing in one space. And some things, you can have multiple of that one thing in that one space. So usually you can have like a stack of 64 of something. It kind of depends on the item. I heard recently there's a new experimental feature. So Minecraft does this thing now with some things where they'll make it an experiment where you can create a world and have that experiment on there. It's not like fully bug proof yet, and it's not technically like a full part of the game, but you can play around with it. But they have a new experimental feature that literally is a bundle feature for your inventory. So at least from what I saw from it, it basically means that you can stack blocks in the same inventory slot. Where you used to only be able to have one of one thing, you can have, it seems like there might be like 6 or so, 6 to 8.
Oh, wow.
And I'm kind of curious how it's going to like plan out if it ends up being a main part of the game. Because I don't know how much the experimental features actually like transfer over. It's kind of that thing where you can have multiple of one thing in one inventory slot, but they all have to add up to 64 blocks total. It also seems like you have to craft it in some way so that your inventory is like that. It seems intriguing, and it definitely seems like a big thing that would change the game if it's added.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I am really curious of how that would look, because I'm almost like, why don't you just make more inventory slots? I guess that's not as fun. I'm curious to see, like you said, how much of these experimental features, how much actually end up in the game, and how much is maybe either too buggy or people don't like it, that just gets like axed. But that could be really interesting.
I think it'll be really cool. But it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I feel like at this point in my life, I have so many games in rotation that I feel like Minecraft just kind of goes on the back burner a lot. But I still love it.
Yeah.
And we need to play together again.
I know. We were doing good there for a while where we would play together, like, fairly regularly. Yeah. And I think we found that I used to game a lot more in, like, junior high and high school. And now as an adult, I don't game nearly as much as I used to. I still do a fair amount, but not nearly as much. And so, yeah, like you said, I have other games that I usually tend to gravitate towards more. And so I think we found that I'm worse at Minecraft than you are at this point, because when we were playing together, I kept dying over and over and over again. And I guess my fighting skills of fighting off mobs is really, really bad. And I just die over and over again, to where I would, like, hide in the house at night while you were out killing zombies and things, because I was just tired of dying.
And I promise you, I am not as good as you think I am. I think at the time we started playing, I just had more experience on it, and so I was a little more familiar with it. But definitely traveling at night was a bad idea. Yeah,
we learned pretty quickly that wasn't really feasible, because you're just pretty much dragging along my corpse. And I would just get lost. At our... Yeah.
Well, and I feel like the other hard thing, too, is that with Xbox, you had a set limit of space on your map. Like, one map was all you got, and that was all your space. Like, you couldn't go past that. And so it was really easy to just take what space you had and work with it. But with Switch, it's much more like PC, where it's infinite. I don't know if it's actually infinite, but it's very much bigger.
It's
to
huge.
Where it's multiple maps, but it's way huge, and so you can get lost real easy, and it's real hard to know where you're at and where you're going.
Yeah, I kind of don't like that. I kind of preferred on the Xbox when it was a much smaller map, because playing it on the Switch now, I just get so lost and so turned around, especially when you're just walking through trees, because a lot of it's just trees. Like, it's just really hard to get your bearings of where you're at, because it's just trees everywhere. So there's been a couple of times I've had to switch over into creative, because in creative you can fly around. Where I've had to switch to creative because I'm so lost and I can't find my house, and I just keep dying over and over again. So I've just had to switch into creative just to be able to find my own freaking house, because the map is too big.
Minecraft, it's a great place. I love it and hate it at the same time.
It's very nostalgic for us, but also just, I mean, kind of like you said, that it's kind of stood the test of time, where no, it's not as popular as it used to be, but it's still very much in the zeitgeist. Everyone at least knows kind of what Minecraft is, even if you don't know all the details. Like, if you say Minecraft, people know what you're talking about, because they do update it. It keeps people that have been playing it for a while, keeps them entertained, but then also like, it's never too late to just hop on the Minecraft train and start playing. And so it's kind of lasted so long because it's so open-ended and there's so much you can do. And they also provide, like, frequent updates so that the game still feels fresh and new and not just, like, the same thing.
Well, and, like, that's really the only way that a game lasts. Because, I mean, you think about it, a lot of games, you know, there's a storyline that you have to follow and quests you have to do and everything you go. And sure, it takes you hours upon hours to do that. And it's fun to replay it and do it over and over again. But, like, with a game like this, it's like you're never going to get bored of it. Because you literally could do anything with it. Like, sure, I made a farm this time. Well, next time I'm going to build a castle or something, you know? And there's all sorts of, like, challenges online and, like, you know, all sorts of things that you can look at of, like, to get new ideas of what to do and what to play. There's unlimited possibilities.
Yeah. That makes me think of, you can go on Pinterest and other places on the internet for, like, inspiration for Minecraft builds specifically. It's like a whole subgenre of just content. And I used to sometimes, if I can't sleep, there's videos on YouTube where it's just a black screen and it just plays the Minecraft music, like the old Minecraft music, like the original when we used to play it. Because I know there's more music now. Or there's also, like, long plays where it's no talking. It's just someone building, and it's always something really aesthetic, like Cozy Cabin in the Woods or like Fairy Tale Treehouse, and it's like a 6-hour video or something, and it's just the noises of Minecraft, of the blocks and the cutting down trees and placing blocks for like 6 hours. And so I've spent plenty of nights where I just put that on to fall asleep too, get lulled to sleep by the ambient sounds of Minecraft.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, it's like a comfort thing. The music is really good. Dear Minecraft. Love it so much.
Well, those are our 2 topics for this week. We hope you enjoyed listening to them. If you have any thoughts, feelings, opinions about Gilmore Girls or Minecraft, let us know. In case you missed it, this is actually our 3rd episode. So we talked about some recent albums in our 1st episode, and then 2 weeks ago was our Halloween episode, where we talked about Halloween movies and ghost stories. So if you haven't listened to that, go take a listen. I think it's a pretty good episode, if that interests you. Also, please leave us a kind rating on Spotify. That would be greatly appreciated. And to follow us. We're posting episodes every other Thursday. So stay tuned in 2 weeks for our next episode with new topics. And thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.